Nabalinge samalola ya some details the legend is yin. Taringi lenji sero nange legend di nang nyedong ni senyi da juwe ce jungye dan jusum ni giring sem dan soki deling lenzo sumje sudeng pati general konsa kyamgen jumpu cho ushu nang beto gyawe fordang tu so yobare. Talingi deling nang nyamshu nang ki nangjo la keba tang nyamlemba lotu chete mangbu nyamshu nang yoba mase. Nubjoki simgam tsenri batang, leze tsenri ba. Tingdu ki turi to nyamshi nangke tsenri ba. Tishin dowa mi pigur rikbe to nyamshi nangke tsenri batang, keba gyatang tunju tundu ki nyamshu nang yoba re. Asia rawan lonting hangi nezu bedeng tar chena, deze chuksum ki nying tame de lingam. Konsa kyamkwe chenpu choki, Keba nga chin ni number shebi gyun ki to ne she tu pa le lubu teng ne she me tu pa kan nang shi teyang pena pama chi ki thuku tsema ni la cha sha na lubu to ne ha jang de sung yi yang shebe to ne min do ba yung ge yo ba te lubu phu bi sheba ser ba shi ta de tu yo ba se bu yi ba kan nang yo ba de ta dong kong sa cho ki nang be shung lu nang pa me ku da ki ning sam jawa sam ki keba lang ba me de ba da zo bu keba lang ba nge ba ku da du bi yu su nam she shu ge ba du gi yo ba se she nang yo ba re yin na yang ko sa kyam ge chen bu cho ki yi lu nam she zhe bi nam she yong zo ki che le le ba de yo ba kan nang ba tang chung le ba tang phong bu ngo bu ji min ba se she nang ba tang da ko sa cho ki chen le ba nam la she be to nyamshi mangzam gebe lamden yang nang yebe nindung sudun shu ba shi shamla sisi yong ba shu
So now, second day, about mind and the brain. Oh. So you see people, I think particularly scientists not much investigate about consciousness. When we say consciousness, always refer brain. So now, clear example. My body getting older and older, but my mind younger and younger. So definitely, there is, I say, mind is something quite independent. So therefore, now it is really worthwhile, useful, more investigate about mind, consciousness. So, my own case, body getting older and obviously,
my knees are quite wobbly.
But it seems to myself, my consciousness thinking, I think more sharper, more deeper experience. So obviously, body and mind to separate. Now when we think about mind, then it is quite complicated. Mind not produced by brain, but its own entity. So now this bring a subject. Today's my mind, continuation of yesterday's mind. So at the sort of what's the cause of conception, I think the very concept ningsum jar sa tsikora rida ko kuja dubo sam remedugo.
So in the Buddhist understanding, the very term that is used for conception says beyond the simple meeting of physiological, factors coming together.
나라죠 더 슝비 나로래야 아니 밤에 쿠자 뉘베 커돌이야 벌시 녀 콜도스 여대버지.
So for example, like in the texts and the Buddhist texts, when it describes the sort of the moment of the consciousness entering this, composite, there is a whole description about how the environment within which that consciousness is present.
자사가 녀도 닝수 잘못하고 안다 시버디기 시베 균디 더 균아마지 마션 자야모.
So in that sense that the continuity of the first moment of consciousness of the newly born child or a conceived child has to be traced prior to that stage.
그러나 타생고 왜 리퀘스트를 아니 녀도 닝숨 자네 아니 대 아니 밤에 쿠전 뒤가 대섬이나 아니 쿠전 뒤에 내가 참을 올려 집어차고 그러고.
So the one of the sort of the style of the reasoning is really more like a process of elimination. So if simply it is a physiological or physical process, then the coming together of the two factors, creating the composite, should always give rise to a birth of a child, conception. But that's not necessarily the case.
디 쿠자 뒤에서 뭐임에 될래야 넘버 쉐버서야지 그게 쿠자 뒤에 의절이야 슈부이나 소차 뭐슈나 쿠자 뒤에서 뭐래마도 소차 책임이 되고.
So the conception requires more than coming together physical factors. And that third factor is really the presence of the continuity of consciousness.
So now it is really worthwhile to investigate what is consciousness. That the motivation nale yorela special nalende nangbe shungda lakon nalende shung nalola da seshurisha.
So although this kind of discussion is found in non-Buddhist classical Indian philosophical writings as well, but we find in the Buddhist Nalanda master's treatises much more extensive inquiry into this whole question of what is the nature of consciousness and what is the origin of consciousness of this particular life.
당아서 교원것이 셔요나 아니 리뷰되네 교원함의 고버디 교심을 믹스 팬에 요약해면되고.
So, for example, if we were to try to account for the important features of present life purely based on our body, based on physiology, then many of the sort of the features of human characteristic, the individual characteristics, it's quite difficult to trace it to an earlier instance of body, purely on a material basis.
파먼시 보고 참아다우지 그 시베 때문에 맨자맨자 내용도가.
So even twins who are born to exactly the same parents, we can see differences in their personalities and characteristics.
자사가 아주 리부딜의 수두지 남을 씹어서야지 여버지 samruto stana pajasavare.
So if we were to think along these lines, to really account for the human existence and human nature and human characteristics, it seems to suggest quite clearly that we need to look beyond material explanation, physical explanation.
The serigi shevati level kevaris lagochana kaushare.
So, for example, the nature of consciousness, at the heart of it is this luminous nature or the clarity. So this clear awareness or luminous nature, if one were to argue that this is a product of brain or a function of brain, that would be quite hard to accept.
What is your sort of distinction, brain and consciousness? Do you have some idea? Consciousness and brain.
Well, Your Holiness, this is an important topic that, as you know, we've talked about for years. And one of the things that you've pointed out, for example, in your book, The Universe in a Single Atom, that the scientific belief, it's really a belief, that the mind is the same as the brain is a belief. It is not a fact. And so this is something I think that is at the heart of one of the insights that we have gleaned from our dialogues with you, Your Holiness, and is still, we call this the hard problem in neuroscience. That is how experience may arise from the brain. And in my view, we have not made any progress in really understanding that over the last 100 years.
가서
단다 체리랑 돈에 남시 드시게 단다부터 그게
그래.
체리랑 돈에 남시 그거랑신 드시게 단다 세부 텐토 요 말에서 레벨로 게르는 걸 제베체베네.
Obviously, physical and brain is part of physical. Getting older, more white hair, and more
wrinkles.
But consciousness, which depend on our brain, but consciousness itself, more or less independent, separate. So, my own experience, now getting older, that means physical level. Knowledge about, now for example, you know about altruism or about understanding shunyata. You see, year by year or even month by month, understanding becoming deeper and deeper. But the physical getting older, so it clearly shows consciousness and body something separate. So now, the question now, the peace, real meaning is mental level. The physical comfort, not important. But a mental level, completely relaxed, completely sort of peace. So now, in modern time, I think we quite neglected about how to develop peace of mind. Just a close eye is not important. The important thinking. Now, 5 senses of organs and 6th the mind. So meditation carried by sixth mind. So sixth mind focusing on particular subject, then all senses of organs automatically stop. So now it is quite good investigate about consciousness and thinking. Then once we accept consciousness, the further sort of question, what is the causes of consciousness? Then that bring concept of continuation of consciousness. So very beginning of my consciousness with a new body must be previous continuation of previous consciousness. So now that bring question previous life. Mm-hmm. And also you see there are people, including myself, when I was very young, I have some memory about past life. So it shows continuation of life, continuation of our consciousness. And obviously, you see, some young children clearly memory about past life. I'm not such clear, but some memory there. So now, on these facts, we have to accept continuation of mind. So, this Buddhism and the Hinduism, we more or less common. Now Christian, you see this very life, you see given by God, or something different. But Indian tradition, everything should come continuously. So previous
lifelong.
Previous mind. And through that way, we thinking a life after life and consciousness continuously. Then that also, you see, gives, you see, courage. This life, I try to improve my consciousness and a certain good quality. Then step by step, my consciousness can reach Buddha's consciousness. So, my body getting older, but my mind every day thinking new, and deeper experience about bodhicitta, about understanding of shunyata. So mentally, even you see younger, physical level older. So this, my aim is ultimately go to Buddhahood. Okay. I think, according to my own experience, 20 years ago, my mental state, and today, some differences, deeper experience. So physical getting older, mental level more fresh, like that. So now, firstly, it is useful to have the concept continuation of a mind. Then mind through training, new also the quality, right?
Qualities. So many of the qualities of the mind can be cultivated and perfected.
So anyway, physical getting older and older, mind become younger and younger, and aiming Buddhahood. So we believe physical and consciousness is similarly Shiva Ragwa, Chawa, Shindu Chawa, Mongshadwa.
So when we think about consciousness, we should not be thinking just a monolithic thing. There are really different levels, subtle levels, the grosser levels, and very subtle levels as well. So in Vajrayana literature, there is quite an extensive description of the various levels of this consciousness and how each of these are indicative of higher, coarser levels of mind, and how when these, through a process, dissolution takes place, from a coarser to a less coarser to a subtle, then more subtle levels of kind of purely luminous states of consciousness comes to be manifest.
천다로 세시직이 미카셔 총네 추우체 아다 풍부티 서버셔 되기도 다 간다고 시바 차외를 간다 림베기 다 템림자다 타마 용어 해지지 왜서 간도 스테데지.
So one of the indications of this we see in a phenomenon when some people die, even though they are clinically dead, physically dead, but their body does not decompose. So they are going through progressive levels of subtlety of consciousness, which is also progressively independent of the physiology of the person. So we see such phenomenon where, although someone is clinically dead, the body doesn't decompose, in some cases for prolonged period of time.
시바차라게 나제 소수사도 저디 롤파도스 가수래 검지하고 주부이나 체도년에 봐 저잖아 고박해 매매체 그 정식이도 좋은 팀림디도 샤연데 다 뭐시바상래다 더 나외런신 체배런신 녀토거런신 셔기도 상바치 패시 연구를 되네 루루의 셈디드 파가네 용어 사지집에 왜세사디 샤용요래 아니 왜생앙래야 패시 그로 검차 여베이나 아니 탐제 동보 왜세 샤인도산에 다 용어 사지집에 왜세 샤유고도 사바지 패시 용도 가버리 아니 왜세 대응앙라 아니 나원데 탐자로 방 가서지 라다 전용원에 아니 러시기 주버시기 나와 샤데버디도 사모로 가서지 아니 시베 난게 디두 디게디에 가서지 아니 안데 되기 쉬어 그 동보 당보 동보 이보 동보 숨보 동보 시보 탐자 동보 왜세 세야데 가나 아니도 롯데야지
So part of this also involves daily practice, where the meditator or the practitioners goes through a simulation of various stages of dissolution of the body, from various stages of the elements, including the dissolution of the consciousness itself, divided further into what are called the 4 stages of appearance, increase, near attainment, and finally culminating in the experience of clear light, pure luminosity. So when someone who is familiar with this dissolution process as part of their daily practice, when the actual phenomenon happens at the point of death, will be simply able to maintain the awareness and recognize the process that he or she is going through. And then there is no effort in that moment. It's simply a recognition, simply an awareness. And that pure, simple awareness is able to maintain the awareness of that processes. And, what the process involves is a increasing level of, moving beyond everyday experience of duality of subject-object, external objects, and thought process, habitual thought patterns, and so on, and finally culminating at the point what is referred to as clear light, where the fundamental sort of primordial consciousness, which is sometimes referred to as the innate consciousness, really comes to manifest, where there is just no duality at all. And all the perceptions that are so dominant of our ordinary mind have completely disappeared. And Thuktam is the phenomenon that is described, referred to here. Thuktam is a state where the individual is maintaining that state for a period of time.
다 나기냠네 도스 영ен시기 저자야르디 레왕도 팀림디 디시네 나와 쳬바 녀톱디도 샤네 아니 탐저도 뭐 왜서도 샤레 그도를 아니 왜서 랑우 쳬바잖니 대가래야 이 동지 고며야디 어다 식가서다 다 수수고서지 저다 간다 그게 검사 예배 토네 유유시 예배체 아니 나라랑 시그 도고소소 체벌랑 시그 도고 싶주 녀도고랑 시그 도고 된디도 사이야 다 나지 토송 디슈고데다 나지 토송 디슈고데 왜세 실기 사바체체 아니 산지기 왜세의 샤인도 전에 대인의 동리가 따와다 제니 상당연도 아니 람지 왜세는 로트야 지기 디슈고 아니 사운드고 다 그래서 람에게 규제직 먹고지기 줄을 당야래 또 디디 가다 시설하고 나랑조를 한지기 영야 여대버티 아니 상무단의 시신도도 상당한데 아니 리베 남긴 공을 교수야지.
So what we see here is actually a yogi utilizing naturally occurring processes. For example, like the process at the dissolution at the point of death is something that naturally happens to all of us. So through sadhana practice, one familiarizes with them. And for the yogi or the meditator, this is an amazing opportunity, because what the yogi is able to do is to really seize the opportunity accorded by a natural dying process, and where, while maintaining awareness, because of the familiarity with the meditation practice, is able to recognize the stages, important points that one is going through. And so when we finally get to the point where all the causal levels of thoughts and consciousness have come to an end, and then the final stage is referred to as, in fact, the state of all emptiness. So tamje tongpa, sometimes referred to also as clear light. And that is a naturally occurring phenomena where it's our primordial mind, our primordial consciousness, which is pure luminosity. But for the yogi, it is important to be able to then use that state of mind to realize emptiness, to focus on emptiness. That way, the naturally occurring phenomena is utilized, which helps then for the person to transform that state into a state of path. And so this is an important practice. And then, as described in many tantras, one then arises into what is called the illusory body. So the point is, the yogi uses naturally occurring phenomena and then maintains awareness all through, and then is able to utilize that state of mind the subtlemost state of mind to realize emptiness, that nature of reality.
아니 수수는 일래다 mellom다 디기디기 캡틴으로 전에 아니 그도데 다 견해 가봤게 맞게데 소소하게 되버잖아요. 다 디디실이 기기 인상버지 판바다네 아니 가서 견해 사버지 용태야 되셔.
So, so the yogi who is able to maintain awareness throughout, utilize that state of mind to realize emptiness, then can have the ability to actually, partly due to previous force of previous good karma, but also because of the ability of the mind, might be able to actually choose the specific types of birth, like human birth and so on, that he or she can, choose it.
Yeah, that's way.
Okay, so you want
question.
So he wants to start with the